Is the motion seconded? The member for North Sydney.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this government is accruing debt at over $2 billion a week. $2 billion a week. And the majority of that money is being borrowed from overseas. Mr Speaker, now is the time to start to ask the questions about exactly what the Rudd government has done to make a bad situation even worse. Why have they gone into a position where they ran a campaign against inflation at a time when exactly the opposite tack should have been taken? They should have been talking down the impact of inflation, maintaining growth in the Australian economy and becoming aware of exactly what the impact would be on the Australian people of a looming financial crisis. And as the Prime Minister scurries out the door to run away from what is a significant debate about the state of the Australian economy, I say this, we say this, we are opposed to increasing debt beyond the capacity of the next generation. We are opposed to increasing taxes beyond the capacity of the next generation. We do not want to see our children without jobs. We want to see our children with jobs, real jobs, innovative jobs. We want to see our economy grow. We do not want to see, Mr Speaker, a return to the bad old days of Labor. Labor with state banks, a toxic cocktail, a Labor Party member and a banker. What a cocktail that is. An unholy relationship. A bit like Elizabeth Taylor going back to Richard Burton once again. That's what it's about, the Labor Party and bankers. And if there have been any lessons learned, Mr Speaker, over the last 30 years in Australia, it is that government should not be involved in banking. And, Mr Speaker, when the state government of New South Wales started peeling the gold leaf ceiling off the corridors of the State Bank of New South Wales, put there by Nick Whitlam, the taxpayers of New South Wales said it is the only saving grace for the fact that we did not go down the path of Victoria and South Australia and Western Australia. And yet, the Labor Party today is seeking to reintroduce legislation to once again burden the taxpayers of Australia with bad debts and bad projects involving property developers. Mr Speaker, this government has a problem. The problem is that they have committed to a limit of 2% real growth in budget expenditure. And yet their own budget papers last year indicate that in the major areas of expenditure, in welfare, in health, in education and in defence, committed expenditure is beyond 2% over the forward estimates. And their 2% commitment to a limit on increase in expenditure doesn't take into account the fact that they are going to have to pay the interest on all the money they are borrowing today. It doesn't take into account the fact that the population is growing. It doesn't take into account the fact that if we are going to build the infrastructure necessary to improve productivity in this nation over the next 10, 20 and 30 years, it will require investment. But what the Rudd Labor government is leaving us with, and what the Rudd Labor government is leaving our children with, is an impossible debt to repay. They are leaving them with the highest taxes that a generation of Australians will ever face. And that doesn't even take into account the structural deficit that our nation is facing, as identified in the intergenerational reports. We are facing significant challenges in Australia, not just today, but tomorrow and beyond. Tomorrow and beyond. Today, the Rudd government is focused on politics. Today, the Rudd government reacts to the latest initiative occurring overseas. We've had Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister, lecture the world on a whole range of things over the last 15 months. He went and told the world that it was warming. The world really listened to that. He went and told the world that nuclear non-proliferation was not the main game, should be the main game, non-proliferation. He went and told the world, the Prime Minister, that he had a solution to the global financial crisis. And you know what, Mr Speaker? He's going to go to Copenhagen, he's going to have nothing. He can't even deliver a 5% ETS to show off to the rest of the world. He is going to be embarrassed, but the people that pay the price for all of the Rudd government embarrassments are the next generation of Australians. We stand up for the children of Australia. The Rudd government denies them a future.